I want to tell you about a thing that has always been true of the Plain farms, and that I never thought much about until a neighbor in town remarked on it. This man, an Englisher, a good fellow, spends half his summer pulling ticks off himself and his children and his dog. Every time they come in from the yard, there is the checking, the pulling, the worry. And he asked me, plain and a little envious, how it is that my grandchildren run barefoot through our place all summer, in and out of the garden and the grass, and we almost never find a tick on any of them. And I had to stop and think because it was true, and I had never named why. We are out in that yard from dawn to dark, the whole family, all season. We have woods on two sides and a creek at the bottom. By every rule, we ought to be covered in ticks, and we are not. It is not that we are lucky, and it is not that the ticks are not out there, for they are, thick in the woods at our very edge. It is that the plain way of keeping a place, the way the old folk have always kept a yard, happens to be almost exactly what keeps the ticks out of it. Now, I want to be careful and honest with you right at the start, because this matters, and I will not have you mishear me. A tick is not a mouse or a fly, a mere nuisance. A tick can carry sickness, the Lyme and others, real illness that can trouble a person for years. I am not a doctor, and I will make you no promises about disease. What I can tell you, plain and true, is how the old folk keep the ticks themselves out of the yard and off the body, so there are far fewer of them to ever bite in the first place. Fewer ticks in your yard and fewer on your skin is the whole of the aim, and every honest authority agrees that is the sound way to go about it. Because here is the thing most folks get backwards. They think fighting ticks means spraying poison over the whole yard 4 times a summer. And the plain truth, and the men of science say the very same, is that the yard spray is the weakest part of it. And the free things, the way you keep your grass and your edges and your own self, are what actually do the work. The old folk did all the free things as a matter of course, without ever knowing they were fighting ticks. And that is why the plain farm has so few. I am going to give you the whole of it today. 6 plain things that keep the ticks out of a yard and off a family, and near every one is free or costs $1 or 2. Where the ticks actually live, and the simple change to your yard's edge that they cannot abide. The one thing to do to your clothes that is worth more than any spray. How to check yourself and your dog in a way that takes 2 minutes and saves you a world of grief. And I am going to tell you the honest truth about the tick tricks you have seen sold, the miracle oil, the garlic, the plants that are supposed to shoo them off, and which do a thing and which are pure sales talk. So come out to the yard with me and let us talk about ticks and why the plain folk are so little troubled by them. Before we get into it, a quick word. This channel is for the person who would rather understand how a thing works and fix it plainly than buy a product and hope. If that is you, then you belong here, and I would be glad if you would tap the subscribe. There is a new old skill here every week, and a lifetime of them left to share. Let me say one honest thing before I start, so you know the ground I stand on. Everything I am going to tell you lines up with what the plain-spoken authorities on this say. The health people, the ones whose only business is keeping folks safe and who have nothing to sell you. I have taken care on this one because a tick is a serious little creature, and I would not pass you folk wisdom that does not hold up. The good news, and it is a mercy, is that the sound, honest advice and the old, plain way turn out to be nearly the same thing. The old folk landed on it by living close to the land, and the men of science landed on it by study, and they meet in the middle. So what I give you today is both the old way and the sound way at once. Let us begin where the ticks begin, which is not where you think. Here is the first thing, and it is the root of all the rest, because until you understand it, you will fight ticks in all the wrong places. It is this: a tick is not a thing of the open, sunny lawn. A tick is a thing of the damp shade, the tall grass, the leaf litter, and the brushy edge. Learn that one fact, and half the battle is already won, for it tells you exactly where your ticks are and exactly where they are not. Let me tell you how a tick lives, for it explains everything. A tick cannot fly, and it cannot jump. That surprises most folks. It does not drop from trees onto your head. That is an old tale. What a tick does is climb up a stem of tall grass or a low leaf at the edge of the woods, and it holds on with its back legs, and it holds its front legs out, waiting. Just waiting. Sometimes for days, for a warm body to brush past so it can grab hold. They call it questing. And here is the thing that governs the tick's whole life. It dries out and dies in the sun and the open air. A tick must have damp and shade to live. It cannot survive out in the middle of your short, sunny lawn, for it would dry up and perish in a few hours. It lives only where it is cool and moist and covered. Now think what that tells you. It tells you the tick is not spread evenly across your yard, like most folks imagine. The ticks are almost all at the edges, where your mowed yard meets the woods, or the tall brush, or the old stone wall, or the pile of leaves and brush you never cleared. That damp, shady border is where they live, in a thin band, and the open, sunny middle of your yard is nearly free of them. The men who study this have gone out and counted, and they find the great mass of the ticks right at that woodland edge, and very few out in the open lawn. So the whole of your tick fighting comes down to that edge, and to keeping the ticks penned in the woods where they belong, and out of the yard where your family lives. And once you see your yard through the tick's eyes, as a map of damp, shady places it can live, and dry, sunny places it cannot, you will know exactly what to do. You make the places your family uses dry and open and sunny, and you clean up the damp, shady harbors near the house where a tick could set up. That means the first plain job, and it costs you nothing, is to walk your yard and find the tick harbors. The leaf litter piled against the house or the fence, the tall grass along the shed, the brush pile you meant to burn, the deep shade under a low bush where the children cut through. Every damp, shady spot near where your family walks is a place ticks gather and wait, and clearing it out is the plainest tick control there is. Rake up and haul off the old leaves, especially along the edges and against the house. Cut back the tall grass and the brush that overhangs the paths. Get the light and air into those damp corners, and you dry out the tick's whole world. You are not spraying anything. You are just taking away the cool, damp cover the tick must have, and without it, it cannot stay. That alone, done well, clears most of the ticks out of the part of the yard you actually use. Now the second thing follows straight from the first, and it is one of the finest and least known tricks there is, and it costs a few dollars once and lasts for years. If the ticks live at the shady woodland edge, and they dry out and die in the open, then you make a dry line between the woods and your yard that the ticks will not cross. A moat of dry ground. And the plain way to do it is a simple strip of wood chips or gravel. Here is how it works, and it is a wonder in its plainness. Where your mowed yard meets the woods or the tall brush, you lay down a band about 3 foot wide of dry wood chips, the broad, dry bark kind, or gravel. Just a strip, all along that edge. Now think what that strip is to a tick. The tick wants to travel out of the damp woods and into your yard, questing for a body. But to do it, it must cross 3 foot of dry, sunny, baking wood chips, with no damp and no shade and nothing to climb. And it cannot. It dries out and dies trying to cross that hot, dry band. That simple strip becomes a border wall the ticks cannot get over, and it holds the great mass of them back in the woods where they came from. The men of science tested this very thing, laying these barrier strips at the woodland edge, and found it cut the number of ticks crossing into the yard by a wide margin. A 3 foot line of wood chips, a Saturday's work and a few dollars of mulch, standing guard all season, every season. Now, mind the one detail that matters, for it is the whole secret. it must be the dry, broad-chip kind of wood mulch or gravel. Not the fine, shredded, damp mulch that holds water, for that would only give the ticks another moist place to live. Dry and coarse and sunny is the whole point. Broad wood chips or plain gravel, 3 foot wide, right along the line where your yard meets the wild. And while you are thinking about that edge, here is the rest of the plain sense that goes with it, and that is why the old farmyard was laid out as it was. Keep the things your family uses out in the open, sunny middle of the yard, away from that shady edge. The bench where you sit, the children's swing, the place you hang the wash, the garden path. The old folk never put the porch chairs back in the damp shade against the tree line. They put them out where the sun falls, and there was wisdom in it they may not even have named. A body sitting in the dry sun is a body no tick can reach. A body sitting in the damp shade at the wood's edge is sitting in the tick's own parlor. Move your living out into the sun, keep it back from the brushy border, and you have put your family where the ticks are not. Let me stop here a moment, halfway along. If this is proving useful to you, the kindest thing you can do for a small channel like this one, and it costs you not a penny, is simply to subscribe. It is a quiet little push that tells the machine to carry this out to other folks who are pulling ticks off their children and would be glad to know there is a better way. That is all. Now let us talk about the one thing you can do to your clothes that beats any spray. Now we come to protecting the body itself. For even with the yard kept right, if you go into the woods or the tall grass or work the brushy edge, you will meet ticks, and you want them off you. And here the plain, honest truth surprised even me when I looked into it. For the best thing by far is not something you put on your skin at all. It is something you put on your clothes. And it is worth more than all the skin sprays put together. The thing is called Permethrin. Now do not let the long name put you off, for it is a plain and old thing. It is made from a substance first found in the humble chrysanthemum flower, and it has been used a long time. What makes it a wonder for ticks is this. You do not put it on your skin. You treat your clothing with it. Your boots, your socks, your trousers, your work shirt. You spray the garment, let it dry, and it is done. And here is the marvel of it. A tick that crawls onto clothing treated with permethrin does not just turn back. It dies. The treated cloth kills the tick on contact before it ever reaches your skin. And it stays in the cloth through many washings, so one treatment lasts weeks and weeks, a whole season if you treat the clothes you wear to the fields. Think how that changes things. Your ordinary work clothes, your boots and socks and trousers, become a suit of armor that kills ticks as they climb. The tick coming up from your boot toward your leg, questing for skin, meets the treated cloth and never makes it. The men of science hold this up as the single most effective thing a person can do to keep ticks off, more than any spray on the skin. And you can buy the treatment cheap at any farm or hardware store and treat a set of work clothes for the season for a few dollars. One plain thing, done once, and your field clothes fight ticks for you all summer. Now, hear the two plain cautions, for they matter. First, permethrin goes on the cloth, never on your skin directly. You treat the garment, let it dry fully, and then wear it. That is how it is meant to be used and how it is safe. Second, and mind this one, it must be kept away from cats while it is wet, for it does not agree with them until it is dry. Once it is dried into the cloth, it is settled and fine, but do the treating and drying away from the barn cat. Follow those two plain rules. Treat your clothes and not your skin, and dry it away from the cats, and you have the finest tick protection there is for a few dollars a season. And if you want a thing for the skin itself, on the arms or neck, then here the old folk and the honest authorities part ways a little from the miracle oil sellers, and I will give you the straight truth of it in a bit when we sort the real from the foolish. For now, know that treating the clothes is the great thing, the thing that does most of the work, and it goes on the cloth, not the person. Here is the fourth thing. And it is the plainest of all, and it is the last line of defense that catches whatever the yard and the clothes let through. It costs nothing, it takes 2 minutes, and it is the single most important habit there is, because it works no matter what else you did or did not do. It is simply this. Every time you come in from the yard or the woods in tick season, you check yourself over for ticks, and you get the family into the same plain habit. Now here is why this 2-minute check matters more than most folk realize, and I will give you the plain fact of it, for it is a hopeful one. A tick does not do its harm the moment it lands on you. It has to find a spot, and settle, and bite, and stay fastened and feeding for a good long while, the better part of a day or more, before it can pass on any sickness. That is the mercy in it. Which means if you find that tick and take it off within a few hours of coming indoors, before it has settled in to feed, you have taken away nearly all the risk it carried. The check is your safety net, and it is a wide one, because time is on your side if you only look. So here is the plain habit to build. When you come in from the yard of a summer evening, before you settle for the night, you do a quick look over, and you look in the places a tick likes, for it seeks the warm, hidden, folded spots, behind the knees, under the arms, around the waist where the belt sits, behind the ears and along the hairline. The children especially look them over, in the hair and behind the ears, for they are low to the ground and in the grass. It sounds like a great to-do written out, but in practice it is 2 minutes and becomes second nature, the way washing up before supper is. And 2 more plain things that double the worth of the check. First, when you come in from real tick country, take those field clothes and put them straight in a hot dryer for 10 minutes before you even wash them. The dry heat kills any tick still riding on the cloth, sure and quick. Not the washer, mind, the hot, dry heat of the dryer. 10 minutes tumbling hot, and any tick on the clothes is finished. Second, a shower within a couple hours of coming in does 2 goods at once. It washes off any tick not yet attached, and it puts you in front of a glass to have your look over. Make those a habit in tick season, the dryer and the shower and the 2-minute look, and you catch nearly everything the yard let through. And should you find one fastened on, do not panic, and do not fuss with the old wives' tricks, the burnt match or the smearing of grease, for those do more harm than good. Just take a plain pair of fine tweezers, take hold of the tick as close to the skin as you can, right at the head, and pull it straight out, slow and steady. Then wash the spot with soap and water. Plain and simple. That is the whole of it, and it is the honest, recommended way. The 5th thing is one that folks forget entirely, and it undoes all the rest if you miss it. Your dog. And your cat. And any animal that goes out to the yard and the woods and comes back into the house. Because an animal walks through the very tick harbors you have been keeping your family out of, the tall grass and the brushy edge, and it comes back in carrying ticks on it, and those ticks drop off in the house or crawl from the dog to a person. The finest kept yard in the county does you less good if the dog is ferrying the ticks indoors past all your defenses. So the plain sense is this. First, your outdoor dog wants its own tick protection. And here I will tell you plain. This is one to take up with the animal doctor, the veterinarian, for there are good, safe, proven treatments made just for dogs. And there are also things sold that do not work or that can even harm the animal. Do not guess and do not use the folk remedies on the dog. The vet has the sound, cheap thing that works, and it is worth the asking. Get your dog properly protected for the season and it stops being a tick fairy. Second, and this costs nothing, when the dog comes in from the yard in tick season, run your hands over it, the way you would pet it, but with purpose, feeling through the coat for any tick, which feels like a small, hard bump. The ears, the neck, around the legs, between the toes. It takes a minute, and the dog enjoys it, and it catches the ticks before they drop off in the house. And here is one plain caution that catches many good people out. A great deal of the folk tick advice for dogs is not just useless, but harmful. The garlic that folks feed dogs to repel ticks is actually a poison to a dog in any quantity, and the strong oils that are sold are hard on them too. So for the animal above all, leave the folk tricks alone, see the vet for the proven thing, and do the plain, hands-on check. Keep the dog clear of ticks, and you close the last door they had into your house. The last thing is not a separate task, but the thread that ties all the others together. And it is the deepest reason the Plain Farm has so few ticks. It is simply this. A well-kept yard is a yard ticks cannot settle in, and keeping it well is a habit, not a battle. The plain folk do not go to war on ticks once a year. They keep their place, all the time, in the ordinary course of living, and the kept place has no room for ticks. Consider how it all comes together. The grass by the paths gets cut, because a plain family keeps its yard trim, and short grass in the sun is no place for a tick. The leaves get raked and the brush gets cleared, because a tidy farmstead does not let litter pile up, and cleared ground is dry ground, where ticks die. The wood is stacked neat and dry, which keeps out the mice, and fewer mice means fewer ticks, for the mouse is the tick's great carrier and host. Even keeping the deer and the stray animals out of the garden with a good fence keeps ticks out, for the deer carries ticks in on its body and drops them where it browses. Every one of these is just plain good keeping of a place, the things the old folk did without a thought, and every one of them happens to strike at the tick. That is the real secret under all the six. Not a spray, not a miracle oil, not one clever trick. A yard that is watched over and kept up, cut and cleared and dried and tended, simply is not a place where ticks can make their home. You do the plain things. Keep the grass down and the leaves cleared and the edges dry and the animals checked, and you are not so much fighting ticks as keeping them from ever moving in. And a place kept that way stays low in ticks year on year for near enough nothing, without you ever waging a battle at all. Now, before I let you go, I promised you the straight truth about the tick cures you have seen passed around and sold. And this is the part where I am plainest of all, because there is real money and real risk in this one, and a great deal of foolishness sold to frightened people. Let me sort the honest from the false. You have surely seen it, the video that promises the one miracle oil, the single natural drop that the corporations do not want you to know about, that will keep every tick off you forever. Here is the plain truth. There is no such oil. The natural oils that folks sell for ticks, the peppermint, the cedar, the rosemary, the lemongrass, some of them do put a tick off a little, for a little while. The men of science tested them honestly, and the best of them kept ticks away for somewhere between 10 minutes and an hour, and then the smell faded and the protection with it. An hour at most, and often far less. So, as a quick thing on a short walk, dabbed on fresh, one of the honest oils may help you a mite. But sold as the one miracle that guards you all day, it is a lie, and a dangerous one. For a person who trusts it and skips the real protection is the person who ends up bitten. There is one natural thing that stands above the rest, and that the honest authorities themselves put on their approved list, and I will name it, so you have it. The oil of lemon eucalyptus. That one has been properly tested and earns its place, giving a few hours of real protection, longer than the other oils. So if you want a plainer botanical thing for the skin, that is the honest one to look for. The oil of lemon eucalyptus, not the nameless miracle in the sales video. Now, the garlic. You will hear that eating garlic or planting it or spraying garlic oil keeps the ticks off. Here is the honest measure of it. Eating garlic does next to nothing that was tested and found wanting. Garlic oil sprayed on a yard does have some small real effect. It is one of the gentler yard sprays and not nothing, but it washes off and must be redone often and is no miracle. And mind this hard. Never feed garlic to your dog to fight ticks, for garlic is a poison to a dog. As for the plants folks set out to repel ticks, the lavender and rosemary and marigold along the border, they make a pretty edge and may put off a tick a trifle, but do not for a moment mistake them for protection. They are a nicety, not a defense. So here is the whole honest truth of it, and you can hold to it. The things that actually keep ticks off you are the plain ones I gave you. Keep your yard dry and open, lay the dry barrier at the edge, treat your clothes, check your body and your dog. Those are proven, and those are mostly free. The miracle oils and the garlic cures and the repellent plants range from a little bit of help to pure sales talk, and not one of them will guard you the way the plain methods will. Do not bet your family's safety on a bottle. Bet it on the kept yard and the checked body, the way the old folk did. So here is the one small thing I would have you do, and I will keep it small as ever. For the small thing done this evening beats the big plan that waits for a Saturday that never comes. Tonight, before the light goes, take a walk around the edge of your yard, where the mowed grass meets the woods or the tall brush or the old fence line. Just walk it and look at it with new eyes, the tick's eyes. See where the leaves have piled up damp, where the grass has grown tall and shady, where the brush hangs over the path. Do not even fix it tonight. Just see it. See the tick harbors, sitting there at the edge of where your family plays. And you will understand in your bones everything I have told you today, and the clearing of them will follow easy tomorrow. Now I would dearly like to hear from you, as I always do, for there is a deep well of old knowing among you folks. Tell me down in the comments, what did the old people in your family do against the ticks and the biting things of summer, back before there was a shelf of sprays at the store for it? Was there a way your grandmother kept the yard, a thing your grandfather wore to the fields? A plain trick handed down that kept the pests at bay? Set it down below, for I read every one, and I have gathered some of my best knowing from a thing one of you remembered. And if you would like to come out to the yard or into the shop with me again next week for another of the plain old ways the world is letting slip, then subscribe, and you will not lose the path back. It is good to have the company at the day's end. Until then, keep your grass short and your edges dry, treat your field clothes, and give yourself and the little ones a good look over when you come in of an evening. The tick is a patient little thing, friend, but a family that keeps its yard and checks its skin is more patient still. God keep you, friend. We will talk again.